a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Tony Sayers hanging out. You are one of the most fascinating dudes. You are coming to me in my life. Shout out to Alex Gibson. Thank you so much for this recommendation. I posted a video going through a weird fucking time here, Tony. And I find you out here talking about all the things that I've been just kind of mentally obsessing over, these conclusions lately that I've been drawing. I don't know if they're conclusions or perhaps temporary truths. Maybe I can be slightly hopeful of that, but it's this hopium. It's this all kinds of stuff, man. This new age stuff. It's all the delusions and deceptions going on, the ascensions. And so we're going to talk about it, brother. And my first question for you, though, before you introduce yourself for the audience is, who hurt you, brother?
Who hurt me?
Who hurt you, man? You know,
what do you mean by that?
Somebody just got in there and got to you and set you off on this path, man.
All right. Okay.
I'm so grateful they did. So who
all
hurt
right.
you,
I see what you mean. I tell you who friggin' hurt me. It was my employees when I used to be a real estate agent back in the UK, because they used to drive me into the ground. Micromanagement. Have you ever been micromanaged?
Oh, brother. Yeah. Pass.
So I was micromanaged, working all the hours, and they hurt me, because what they did is they drove me into questioning my existence, my entire existence. So I was so pissed off with that grind every day, and just going beyond and above what I was supposed to do, and it never being good enough. You know, you'd have a good month, and then they'd expect the same next month, and so there was never any winning. And it was just like, I say it all the time. I just stood in my kitchen one day. I got home. I think I had an argument with my boss, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm 33, interestingly, and I'm like, I feel like I'm existing. I don't feel like I'm living, which ended up being the title of my first book, Are You Living or Just Existing? Because they were the exact words that came into my head. It's like, you're existing, you're not living. And then it just snowballed from there, man. Intention is very strong. And I think in that moment, I had a very strong intention to find out what the fuck I was doing, what this place is, what God is, you know, because none of that ever resonated with me. And then it was really weird, you know, I asked those questions, put that out in the ether, and there was just a cascade of information that was just falling in my lap. You know, I would go on YouTube and the recommendations would be telling me about, you know, 9/11 and you know, the moon landing and all this stuff. And I was like so hungry for it, because you know yourself, you're like, now the world makes sense. It's fucked up. It's not me, it's the world, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you go through life thinking there's something wrong with you, and I never fit in. I was awkward at school. I remember even as a kid, just looking at people, just seeing how like nasty they were to each other, and just like, what is wrong with people here? Like, where am I?
Yeah.
And you know, nothing ever felt right. And you go through life thinking there's something wrong with you, and then when you go through what I call the first layer of the awakening, you know, then you start to realize actually it's not you, and you're born into what we now know as a prison planet, and which is based on trauma and suffering, a farm, an energy harvesting farm, and we're the cows. That's the most brutal way of describing it. And I try and be as honest as possible with the way I describe things, because I think really that's the only way we're going to get out of here, by calling a spade and being totally honest about this place, the reality, and what's going on here. And we said off air, I'm the first to admit that my work doesn't necessarily make people feel good. In actual fact, it can traumatize you for a little bit, especially if you've been trapped in the New Age for a while. All the love and light and the rainbow farts and all that stuff, which makes you feel so great and gooey inside, and the rainbow bridges. And there's me coming along saying, no, it's bullshit, it's fake, and kicking away all people's pillars that they lean into. So, but I really feel that, especially when you take the soul trap into consideration, and the memory wipe, that we have an opportunity. And I always like to turn things on its head, because there are positives in the truth and what I'm saying, in that we have an opportunity in this lifetime, I believe, to get out of here. And if we don't get it right this time, we are subject to, going through that whole false white light thing and having the memory wipe and forgetting everything and needing to research everything again. Research is in the word. And this is why it's so important people get out of the New Age construct, particularly when you're talking of the soul trap, because if you've got a very strong belief in guides and angels and, all these other false white light beings, friendly aliens, this algorithmic God that's behind this matrix will tot up your algorithms, like, right, Brandon, yep, he's into guides, right? So we'll present them when he passes over. So you pop your clogs, and then the next thing you know, the guides are there that you worshipped in your physical life, and they're like, hey, Brandon, come over here, just come for this life review. We're not gonna judge you, but we're gonna make damn sure you judge yourself by showing you all your worst bits. Yep. And then, of course, it's the whole guilt and shame, and you're a good person, but hey, look what you did to Joe Bloggs in 2005. You really hurt his feelings, and then they make you experience what Joe Bloggs felt. So they're not guilt and shaming you, but they're going to make you feel everything that you did. And then, of course, it's the whole karma thing. And, Brandon, if you want to elevate to the next level and be like us, then you got to resolve your karma and you need to have another lifetime. Or if you're religious, it's like, okay, well, if you don't want to go to hell, then you've got two options. Hell's this way, or another lifetime on planet Earth to resolve any BS thing that you may have done. And, then the cruelest thing, the memory wipe, and then you're back down again, being milked like a cow from all these entities, and having your energy drained, and negative mind loops 24/7 that aren't even yours, and subject to, that's just the metaphysical level of this, the fact that we have to pay for food and to put a roof over our head, and all the wars and famines and all that kind of stuff, and then the New Agers will tell you that it's good, it's great, it's supposed to be like this, and Earth's a school, and you're supposed to, these are all lessons that we're supposed to be learning, and it's God experience. God needs you to experience trauma so it can understand itself. So that 12-year-old, we spoke off air, people dying with cancer, kids dying with cancer and being abused, that's God experiencing itself. Like, and then if it's a school, why would you get your memory wiped? Like, none of it makes sense. But the New Agers, they want to tell you that, we're here to learn lessons, and it's all love and light, and, evil should be just accepted. We should just accept everything, and we should never look at the negative, because it's all good. It's all right on the night. Everything's great. Just have a gong bath, just sit under the oak tree and sing Kumbaya, and do some yoga, and everything's great, and connect with your guides, because you don't know anything, right? Only the guides can tell you what to do, because they're more elevated than you. You could never know. I mean, when you see these New Age gurus, how they speak to people, it's like they're looking down on them. And So there's so much. I mean, I've just gone on a long rant there, but you pick the bones out of that.
You know, I actually want to apologize here. I think I made a bit of a booking mistake. I thought that it was Tony Sayers, the children's musician, and we were going to talk about writing children's music and how fun and awesome life is. So apologies, man. I'm a bit embarrassed, but we can continue on with what you were talking about.
Yeah,
Dude,
right.
And again, guys, all the ways to find him located down in the show notes. No, that's beautiful. And the way that you wove this in, I've got more questions for you here than we have time to talk about stuff. So again, guys, all the ways to find him located down in the show description. He does not do children's music yet, but maybe, calling for you there. All of his books as well, Living or Just Existing, Energy Vampire, 10 Life Hacks to Beat the Matrix, and The New Age is the New Cage, just to name a few. AI as well, which we were going to touch on. This is actually where I'd like to start, is about a book that you wrote about AI, implants, and entities, the chakra system. I'm going to say those words and then let you go, and I will accept zero apologies for how long it takes you, brother.
Okay, so I mean, I guess we can start with entities, and I'm not the first person that's spoken about entities. You've got other prominent people out there that have mentioned that there is an interference coming from the dimension closest to us, the fourth dimension, the astral realm. And, we're almost blind to what is really out there. We can see just a tiny part of the visible spectrum. So there is all this other stuff going on in the same space that we can't see. Some people do. Some people can tune in. Children particularly tend to be able to tune into that dimension a lot easier because they're a lot more tapped in with their psychic abilities than we are. We tend to lose them over time unless you use them. This is the other thing. We all have these clairvisual, clairaudience abilities, probably telepathy, but they lay dormant within us because we don't use them. We're not taught about them at school. And then when you get to an older age, it's kind of taboo and, it's kind of considered woo-woo, but we do have them. But yeah, so within the fourth dimension, is just basically probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different entity races that exist. So the common one that people latch onto is the reptilians. Well, that is just one entity race that exists out there. There's serpent entities, there's spider entities, there's octopus entities, there's mantis entities, there's demiurge, there's demonic entities, there's vampiric entities, there's gerbil looking things. There's a lot of things that you see in horror films are actually entities. So they're actually not real in terms of physically real, but they're actually coming from a place of these entities. And so these interdimensionals, Greys are another one. Greys, people talk about Greys being like real physical aliens. I don't see them as that. I see them as interdimensionals coming in and out of dimensions. And basically, the simple fact is they need our energy to survive. They siphon off all of our energy, but their particular caviar, if you like, is our low frequency, low vibrational energy, fear, anger, pain, suffering, depression. And it makes sense because when you look at what's going on in the world, what do we have? It's trauma-based, it's fear-induced. You turn on the TV, it's fear, 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 war, 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 all this stuff. We're seeing it now with, what's sadly going on in Gaza. And so it's their caviar, this low frequency energy, and so they need to keep this planet or flat Earth, as I would say it probably is, in a complete state of fear. Scarcity is another one. Induced scarcity on the population. I mean, I touched on earlier the fact that, especially now with inflation and everything, it's always, you're just about getting your head above the water all the time. And what does that do? It makes you stressed. It makes you depressed. And a lot of these entities will nestle in the nervous system for that reason, because it's like easy food. Every time you're triggered, it's like feeding down at the zoo. So quite often there's a lot to clear around that. So yeah, that's basically what's going on. And as I said before, we are the cows and we're being milked. And the difference, I guess, with my work in terms of, like, say, the New Age is that, and this is what triggers people, is that obviously things like angels and guides and all that stuff, spirit animals and all that stuff, they also reside in the astral or fourth dimension. What I say, and what really upsets people, is these are entities that are simply masquerading as light beings. They are not they're not of any good to us. In fact, they're downright dangerous. And we see how they express themselves in the 3D level of our reality. So when we look at presidents and politicians and leaders of corporations, where they will always present themselves as being on your side, being on your team. We've got your best interests at heart. We're going to do this for you. Just follow this. And of course, they're wolves in sheep clothing, right? So they're very manipulative, very deceptive, very conniving. And that same expression is there in the fourth dimension as well. The wolves in sheep clothing are the spirit guides, the angels, the friendly aliens, Arcturians, Pleiadians, Andromedans. These are simply entity races. So archangels, for example, when you see their true form, they kind of look like squid, right? But they're able to cloak themselves, and they will present themselves. And what people are doing is they are channeling these entities, believing that they are channeling these good beings, and they're following the advice. And I have so many stories down the years where people have emailed me, contacted me, whereby they have followed the advice of some channeler, some entity, even, and I hate to say it, I'm just the messenger here, even deceased loved ones, people that have thought they were connecting with their dead dad. I've got a great story of, well, it's sad, but a guy that his dad passed away and he thought he was dealing with his dad. His dad knew everything about him. Well, these entities do know everything about us. So he was giving him all this confirmation bias. He was like, yeah, well, this is you, son, you know, you'd like doing this and yada, yada. So the guy was like, oh, wow, yeah, this is dad, all right. He knows everything about me. This is what dad would say. And he followed the advice of this entity, and he ended up losing everything. He lost his wife, his job. He ended up in also, and he said, Tony, what you're saying is right. I thought this was my dad. And so I'm very aware that when I say these things, it's actually upsetting for people. And I've actually had people actually end up in tears when I've told them how don't deal with angels, you know, their energy's all over you. And so I understand that in this, and we touched on it at the start before we came on air, that because we are in this trauma-induced suffering realm, and don't get me wrong, it's not all like that. We can enjoy good, you know, we can experience human love and animals and nature, and we can there's things that we can enjoy. And I do want to make the point is that the biggest middle finger to them is to make the most of while we're here and not get dragged down into the realms that they want us in, of giving up, losing hope, depression, because they're not getting everything their own way. And in actual fact, they're very scared of what's going on right now. So I'm very aware that the information is kind of kicking people when they're down, almost. Like, you know, we see what's going on now with wars and the economy and everything like that. And here I am. Oh, by the way, you know, that stuff that made you feel good, that's bullshit, right? So I'm the first one to say that I'm very aware that is what the information can do. And there is a grieving process with what comes with embodying this information. Because it's almost like when you have your first awakening, you have that grieving period. You find out what's going on with the kids and all that stuff, and all that awful stuff, and you go through a grieving process. And then what they've done is they've layered this matrix, this perfect tapestry, because they understand that people want to escape. They understand that people are looking for saviors outside of themselves. They understand that people want something to feel good, especially right now. And so they created, and if you go back to the origins of the New Age, Helena Blavatsky, she was a dark Luciferian. They needed something, they needed a new religion, because people were literally losing literal faith with with religion as it was. So they needed something, and they created the New Age movement. And so what they've done is they've layered this matrix. So when you wake up, you fall into what you feel is truth, right? Oh, and they pepper it with truth. That's what they do. I always say that the main truth that they have within the New Age that hooks everyone in and got me hooked in. I wasn't in it for too long, but I did dabble in it. So they put the golden egg in there that we are energy, we never die, right? That makes you feel good, and that is what I believe to be a 100% truth. And then they sprinkle it, they pepper it with all this bullshit, guides, angels, all this stuff, chakras, and so what it does, they hook you in on the egg, and then they put you down a cul-de-sac. And you're still in the matrix. You're still but you're in another level of it. And you think you've woken up, but you've just woken up into the next strand of the web. So I guess where my work fits in is it's then going further and waking people up from that strand of the web. And so then there's another grieving process to go through for people. And what normally happens with people is it takes them a couple of months to fully process the things that I'm saying, and then they start to feel better again, because there's a wonderful truth in the things that I'm saying, in that what the New Age is saying to you and what religion tells us is, you need to look outside here, God, Jesus, angels, guides, yada, 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 yada. And I'm saying, look, you are the powerful one here. You are the sovereign being here, and you're the one that they're most terrified of. So I'm bringing it all back, and bringing it back to self. And what we have to, I guess, get to the stage of is remembering our own power and connecting with that self energy. And again, spinning it all on its head to a positive is that when I talk about this, people are like, oh my God, this implants, this entities, that, and yada, 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 we're screwed. I'm like, no. The reason that they have to do all of this is because they know one human soul in an expanded state of consciousness, not false light, New Age stuff, doing real authentic healing, is a game changer. And the last thing that they want you to do is to discover your own power and to start embodying your own power. And left unchecked, humans, because we do have a fractal of the creator within us, we would probably create an absolute paradise here without all of this crap. So the level of interference is equal to just how powerful we are. And so what I try and remind people is that, but they're doing all of this because without all of this interference, you'd be a real threat to them. You'd be a real bad threat to them. So they need to do it. So this is why a lot of people have had a lot of trauma as well. People that, see, everyone has abilities and gifts, and you'll have gifts that I don't have. I have gifts that you don't have. We all kind of have something we bring to the table, and the matrix will hone in on that and target accordingly. And for some people, maybe they're going to bring in conscious children into the world, and they're going to become so their targeting might be, but often people that, have suffered abuse and stuff in childhood, it's often because they have so many gifts and qualities that, left unchecked, without all of that interference and trauma induced, they would just be such a big shining light. These sort of people, the empathic people, where you walk into the room, you won't know why, but you'll just feel good around them. People like that. So the matrix will target, and we spoke a little bit off air, how when you started having your second awakening, the awakening out of the awakening, things started to get weird for you, right? And that's often the case, where it's like, they don't want you going this deep. They're all right with you talking about how corrupt the politicians are on a 3D surface level, but they want to remain hidden, these entities, and they don't want you going deep down into the metaphysical level of the whole conspiracy. So quite often when people are approaching the new information, things can get a little bit wild. So that's also normal. But so that's the entity side of things. And so these entities, of course, they drain our energy. They will constantly put mind loops around your head. We spoke, don't know, did I mention it now about the suicidal thoughts? Was that off air?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's different level. So everyone has entity attachments. Some people have more than others. Some people have stronger ones than others. So, for example, someone who is a meth addict, right, will have very, very what I would call level one takeovers, level one entity, where the entity is basically almost running the show. People like murderers and rapists, these, in my opinion, they're not simply bad human beings. These are entities in a human vessel. These are literally demonic, total possession. And often when you study these murders and you look into some of these crimes, you'll often find that the victim will say, don't look at the eyes. The eyes turn black or something weird like that. I've seen that before happen in a person in my own life, where it sort of come in and out. And so from experience, that tells me that these people are fully possessed, and they'll often say, the voices told me to do it, right? So in those instances, we're not really even talking about a human. You're talking about a human body, but you're actually talking about an entity that's hosting a human. So we really are sharing this realm with them. And in the alternative media, it's general consensus that the world's quote unquote elite, they're the elite of nothing really, are hosted by entities. But I would go further than that and would say that entities affect all of us, some people more than others. People that have had bad trauma, maybe sexual abuse, they tend to have strong entity attachments where they may have what I call like a level 2 entity, whereby they're getting suicidal thoughts that aren't their own, right? So I think I said to you off air, I had numerous people tell me where they might be driving and then they'll get a voice in their head say, driving to that wall, and they'll be like, Tony, I had this voice, it wasn't my own. So that's your stronger ones. They're quite common. And then you've got your general, your level 3s that most people have. They'll be there encouraging your bad habits, trying to waste your time. They'll get in, maybe they'll try and induce an argument that between you and your partner, because they get in on all your triggers and your unhealed wounds. So if you've got an abandonment wound and your partner's got a betrayal wound, they'll get in on that, and then they'll get in on that, and the next thing you know, there's arguments going on, and and you're like, what happened there? We were fine 10 minutes ago. And so there'll be like the voice in the head, like, just have that, just have a glass of wine, or give up that tomorrow. They want to waste your time. Even things like, when you get out in nature, you kind of re-collaborate and you rebalance yourself energetically, right? So you'll be sitting there and be like, I'm going to go for a walk today. And then suddenly a voice will come in, no, it's going to be too cold, go tomorrow, or something. Anything that's good for you, beneficial, going to move you up on your path a little bit further. They'll either try and put you off or, and we don't even realize that they're there. And so, but a lot of these, but the main thing is that these entities, they're draining on our energy. So a lot of the time people feel tired, they feel drained. I'm like, what's going on? I'm eating right, I'm working out. And I'm like, well, yeah, there's energetic stuff going on as well there. So, and of course, going back to the soul trap thing, that the entities will masquerade when you go to the false white light. They'll appear as whatever you were into, so if you, and again, it saddens me to say, but if you are particularly close to Auntie Jane, right, Auntie Jane will probably show up, and it's not really Auntie Jane, it's some kind of holographic technology or entity that's masquerading. And that's why I think we've been tricked so much, because I mean, it's pure evil. There's no other word for it. It's pure evil in the way that they've manipulated our consciousness and hoodwinked and tricked us. That's why it's a matrix. It's telling you it's tricks, right? So so that's why people, as hard as it is, you know, I'm not here to tell people what to do or what to believe, but it's very important that people move out of the new age. It's incredibly dangerous, and it doesn't appear dangerous when you listen to these people. It really doesn't. You know, they're all love and light, and everything's going to be good. Just keep your vibration. I mean, I reviewed one new ager on my channel, my YouTube channel, and Dorothy Sheldon, I think her name was. And she was basically saying, you know, the soul trap's all right. It's good, you know. And I looked at how many views she'd had, over 200,000 views this video. And I'm like, shit, 200,000 people are going to hang off the word that woman says. And when they get shown a lot, and now, of course, there's all these people that are agents for the Matrix doing these NDEs, near-death experiences, and coming back and saying how it's all wonderful and everything like that. So we're at a time now where we've really got to wise up. And as hard as the information sounds, and as I guess on the surface dark as it sounds, we got to understand it. We've got to discern it, and we've got to work our way through the crap. And because I think that this lifetime is very pivotal for most of us, and I think if you can get past the new age stuff, that second layer of the Matrix, and you can understand the soul trap, I think you've got a pretty good chance of getting out of here. And I think that is the golden nugget in this information, in that, you know, on the surface, it doesn't all feel good, but I'm hoping, and I feel pretty confident that it's going to help people get out.
Neil, dude, just thank you so much, first of all, for all the information that you've come across, all the things that you're saying, because and you know, we've covered a lot of conversations on this show. I've been very open, you know, as much as I can be, but you know, behind the scenes here, you get excited about this, you try this stuff out. You know, I want to be authentic in this, so I authentically give these things a go, and then when it inevitably reaches the point to where I've got Tony coming on here, then you know, it's time for a change. And this whole show has been just that, man. It's called expanding reality. It's a verb. We're doing it, right? We come across these, we give the information out as we can, and then we grow and learn. And this is the part that I'm proud of about this show. So we don't plant our flag, but I'm very interested in the ideas that you're talking about. I have Howdy Mikowski book to come on. This is the second time I plugged that conversation is going to be occurring. And it's ideas like the soul trap, and like that even in death, you know, you have this twofold to this. Number one is the information that you give us, because coming out of the spiritual new age cage, it was this underlining feeling of, yeah, it's sort of a matrix and you can be tricked here, but it's all okay. Like you have a sovereign ride through this thing because you have guides, you have things that can help you, you have all of that, right? And now to come find out, it's all fucking bullshit. And now it's just one big soul farm trap thing. And your loosh is what's most valuable here, even within that, you're still in a cage. And I had somebody recently, very sweet, and I've turned down readings, actually. I used to never, because I thought it was so awesome. I thought, oh man, this is so great that these people want to spend time with me and say things about me that I don't experience, admittingly, and that would be awesome. And recently I had somebody, hey, can I give you Reiki? Absolutely not. I have no interest in it whatsoever. And I want to talk to you about sort of double speak as well. And here's the point that I brought up to my dear friend, who we're still absolute friends. And here's the thing as well, which I'm sure you're at with this, you know, the consideration is I've got no problem with how people want to spend their time here. I am looking at it more like a prison now, and I'm very interested to talk about the trap and how to get out. But one of the things I mentioned here was that let's say that this is ran by entities, which is, again, having you on at this time. I've been playing with these soul trap Howdy's work and all that, and then introduced to you, and then looking at your work because you were coming on, and I'm just immersed in it's checking the boxes ahead of us meeting, right? So within that period, I'm asking this beautiful friend of mine who's a delight. She's sitting here saying, I've done Reiki for years. I've healed thousands of people. Every time they come in, they get trauma that's brought to the surface, and we clear it out. And I feel great, and everybody feels great. I just asked the question. I said, how do you know what is connecting with you to give you those powers? She has a guide. Okay, I'm not going to say the name. She has a guide that she is very convinced that is what she is connecting with. She's convinced because it feels good, and that feeling is unmanufacturable for her. And this is the part I have the issue with. I'm like, it is manufacturable. I can take ecstasy right now and feel fucking great. So if you consider it on the other side, what I asked her was, I said, look, with all due respect, because I love you, is, do you consider that perhaps what is going on is that you have an entity attached to you that is using you to get energy from all these other people via
100%.
then maybe presenting parasites, and you're planting energy parasites for this being in all the people you're healing, air quotes healing. Because then, yes, they're going to feel better because they get the little drip that they get. The other thing to this is now it's just you're hooked to their carrot. And any of these things, the Pleiadians, all this kind of stuff, in my mind, looks like a carrot on a string that'll keep you moving through this trauma fucking grind machine because it's okay, because Archangel Michael told me it's going to be okay. I'm going to keep signing up for this. And to what you said, man, about the lack of consideration for anybody's actual experience here with something like rape, and then to tell somebody, oh, well, you fucking signed a contract on the other side. Don't you remember that? You're just going to get blasted with dicks that you don't want because you signed a contract. It's good for your get absolutely, and in the best pun intended, get fucked. You know what I mean? To me, and as you can hear here, my friend, I get a little worked up with it. And to this point,
we've been lied to so much and deceived so much, and we're being told by the new age community that it's good, everything's great, and it's not.
And that's the part I'm at, man. I feel that this is a reality to where I've got all of us probably have something riding on us that give us a carrot on a stick that show you, hey, just keep going a little more, a little more, a little more. And then it's a death by 1,000 cuts. I recently had Tom Sherman on with a new calendar. He's awesome. And he mentioned that death by 1,000 cuts. And I'm sitting here thinking about it. Yeah, you don't get, you're fucked and traumatized and constantly. And then this idea of spiritual maintenance, which we will come back to, that you have to constantly redo this shit and keep meeting with someone who can help you with that, or keep opening yourself up for that to be really you're maintaining yourself for them is how I see it now. And so again, when we get to this, man, I can't like unsee it this way. So I'm like, no, thank you on all the healings, air quotes and stuff like that. And your higher self's an entity. So pass, you know?
Well, there are, I mean, you can heal yourself and you can get healings. It's just the problem is that everyone's hooking into all the false white light crap. So but you hit the nail. I mean, I couldn't have described it more perfectly, really, in terms of the Reiki. I think you hit the nail on the head. Absolutely.
If you think about it, it's rape me. It's another synonymous,
and the whole. I mean, when I first woke up, I did Reiki, and I went to 3 levels with it. I did, and they called me a master, and I was like, I don't like that feeling.
No, it's weird.
There's something really cringe about that, and I remember thinking that at the time. And of course, that ties into the whole spiritual ego thing. But Reiki, I mean, you hit the nail on the head because it's exactly how I describe it. You know, if you've ever taken ecstasy, there is what I call a false high, and it's like you'll feel absolutely incredible for a few hours, and then there's a crash, right? That can last days or weeks, right? Most of us have played around when we were younger. I did, you know, I'm not perfect. And so with Reiki, what you're doing is you're hooking into a false white light grid, which is that false light frequency, which is working through the quote unquote healer onto the client, which is giving them like this drunk feeling, this kind of drunk feeling, which on the surface you think, oh, wow, I feel great. And then there is the inevitable crash. Whether or not people want to admit that or not is another thing, especially if they're actually practicing Reiki and you know, facilitating Reiki sessions. They probably wouldn't admit to that. They'll say that people feel great all the time, yada, yada, right? Which isn't the case, because I get thousands of people telling me I had all these Reiki sessions and I feel like shit and I feel drained and yada, yada, right? So we have to take what they say with a pinch of salt. And I get it, you know, it's their job, but you know, I've also worked with people who have been Reiki teachers, yoga teachers. They've come across it and they've changed their fucking career, man, because they can't align with something that's not based in truth. So there has to be some level of responsibility to people to go deeper with this stuff, and question even if they don't want to question, even if it affects their kind of livelihood. So the false white light frequency is what I would also say that they use at the point of death with the love bombing. So when people are dying, they're being shown Auntie, I forgot why I said her name was Auntie Rita, and then they get hit with the ecstasy love bomb. So it's like And then I've even heard that there's angel trumpets playing for some people.
They've
right.
upped the showmanship for it. And it's
exactly.
after this shit show of an experience. And there's micro, examples of this. Trauma-based mind control is what it's called. You give a shit situation and you beat somebody down, and then you give them a monicum of relief. They're going to give you anything you want. It's insane, dude. Please.
Yeah. Can you imagine dying from brain cancer, like the absolute horrific way that would be to die? And then you've gone through all that trauma and suffering, and then Archangel Michael's there. I mean, it's no wonder people would you'd be like open arms, wouldn't you?
It's like a timeshare salesman room that you're immediately shoved into with a bunch of hard closed time sales, dude.
Yeah, it literally makes me fucking angry, man, because it's beyond evil. It's beyond evil, like that level of manipulation onto the people here, everyone, all of us that have been so, and we should be fucking angry about it. And the New Age will tell you not to get angry.
Low frequency.
The New Age will tell you to ignore negative things because you might draw more of it in, which is another bullshit. No, if you ignore something, it gets worse. If you break your leg and you just leave it hanging, you're going to get gangrene and you're going to die. But the New Age wants to tell people, no, just, that's going to lower your vibration if you think like that. And you're in your ego, like the ego's a bad thing. Another thing they've demonized. I mean, you don't want to be stuck in your ego, but a healthy ego is bloody vital, right? Can you imagine not having any kind of ego in this reality? You'd be trounced upon. There'd be no creation. No one would make any music. No one would make any art. It's just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. And the one that gets me is, never get angry. And there is absolutely every reason that we should get angry. Dwelling in anger day after day, week after week, not good, right? But the actual emotion of anger, righteous anger, especially when we're learning about what's going on, I'm fucking angry about it. And I'm angry for all the generations of people that have suffered before us and gone through famines and wars, and then quite evilly, is that a word? Been tricked back round and promised this, that, and the other, and had their memory wiped and to experience trauma all over again. And it's not even just like surface level trauma. So, like when you look at some people's lives, I mean, I live in Mexico here, and I went out on the street the other day. I went to the shop, and I was thinking about, like we all do, our little problems that we have in our head. There's a family of Honduran people, and they come up to me, and the guy is the father. He's selling these. He's made these flowers out of something, and I looked at them. They had nothing, man. But they got the kindness in their eyes, and I was like, and in that moment, I just thought, this fucking evil mate. The kids were beautiful. I gave him some money, and the kids came up to me and hugged me. I don't fucking know them, and the guy was like, it was like we were long lost brothers. I was like, how evil that the Matrix has set, like, and they're just one family. Like, I've lived in Cambodia where kids are living on a rubbish dump and stuff, and it's moments like that where I just think, what you were saying before about getting down and depressed and wanting to jack it all in, and it's moments like that we've got to keep fucking going, and we got to bring this thing down, and we've got to bring it down once and for all, and we can do that. And like I say, they are, they're not getting everything their own way, and these entities are terrified. I have it, people that want to book sessions, the amount of interference that they get, their Skype going down, they lose their wallet or something like that, or so they don't want us going this deep, and for me, this is where all the gold is, and this is the way that we're going to get out of here. I think it's very important to find that resolute human spirit within us when we're feeling those dark moments, because I think we've got an opportunity to not only escape from here, but help bring it down completely.
This is the point that I'm at in the action. So again, looked a lot at this about what to do at the end of this Archon Soul Trap, and I love that you brought up the NDEs. I've read 3 books on near-death experiences this year alone, and it's interesting the consistencies of reports that they choose. They're not really dissimilar, and they all kind of give the same narrative. And then you think about, well, there's got to be a variety of reports, and there's some horrific near-death experience reports that kind of catch a glimpse of what may be more truthful to be what's going on, and who knows. All of this, including the information you get and feel so strongly about, in my mind, where I'm at, could all also be a psyop. And maybe you've got to go to that damn light. And maybe the infiltration of this awareness is actually the false light. And you're like, fuck, man. Yeah. So it gets to that point to where like so tell us what to do when we die. Do you just throat chop grandma and then jump out? Like what is the direction that you can go, you know?
Well, I would never tell anyone what to do because it's down to that individual to make their own choices. But all I would do is tell people what I'm going to do. So the problem has been up until now. So I use the car analogy, right? So what's happening is people are dying and they're dying and they don't realize that they even have a car. So what's happening, someone is coming in and saying, hey, look, I'll direct you to where you need to drive the car and everything's going to be all right. And so what we're doing is we're giving over the steering wheel to someone else to drive the car into, well, essentially over a cliff, right? When you go to the deepest level of it, back round again. So we're giving up we're allowing our consciousness to be guided and manipulated and directed into a certain direction, aka with all the tricks and everything they do, aka back round again for another life on planet Clown World, right? So what we need to do is we need to, when we pass, is realize that we have a car, right? And then we direct the car to where we want it to go. And there's a few other theories out there. I think Howdy may talk about, having to resolve everything here and everything. I don't really subscribe to that. I feel like the truth is more simple with that. And the reason I say that is because of the work that I do is basically in the astral and everything is intention. If you want to clear an entity, it's intention. You find it and you clear it and it's gone, right? If you want to see, go into a trauma, you ask to see it and it comes and then you deal with it. And so we can direct our consciousness to wherever we want it to go. It is a skill. It is something that you need to learn. And if you don't use it, you lose it, that whole kind of clear visual stuff. But I'm not really talking about that as such. I'm just giving you the example as to how our attention really can direct our consciousness, right? So I am simply, when I die, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm dead. Okay, I'm out of here, right? Take me to the place that I need to go to exit. I'm not asking Archangel Michael. I'm not asking my dead mum, bless her. I'm not asking my spirit animal over here. No, I'm asking my consciousness, right, it's time to go. Let's get out of here. Where do we go? And I've heard from several people, this is what resonates with me, is that you can either rip a hole out of the fabric of the matrix or there's already holes there present. And I did some regression work with a client, and interestingly enough, her inner child actually was in trauma because she didn't want to be here. She was here again, and there was a whole trauma about just being here again.
I can relate, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had to say, look, hopefully this is the last time round. We said, look, there is a soul trap, and she was like, right. And then because everything exists at the same time, the client was literally shown by the child, look, this is. Oh, there was two things. There was one thing, one client where she was shown a hole in the fabric of the matrix, and the child was like, this is where we're going to go. So that was quite interesting. And then I had another session where a lady, similar kind of thing, she saw a dagger and she saw herself, with a dagger just ripping a hole in the fabric. And we can create that. So when we're creative beings, especially in that realm, we create instantly. So when we die, just create a dagger, go to the outside of the matrix, rip a hole and go out. So, but your subconscious or your consciousness will show you the way. But the problem is that we're being manipulated to not trusting ourselves, and others know better, guides know better. And, you see quite often in these NDEs that sometimes these hooded, cloaked beings appear. There's something about the cloak that we interpret as wisdom, right? So they pull out all the stops, right? So the thing is, if you get to the point where, you're dealing with any entities, you've probably gone too far. That's not to say that you can't go, still change it. But for me, I'm not going to engage with any entities. I'm not going to talk to anyone until I know that I'm fully out of here. Then I'm just, I'm like a bullet. I'm gone. And for me, I'm going to do my best while I'm here. I'm going to do my best to enjoy the experience while I'm here, although it's difficult. But I'm gone, and I'm driving my car out. And I don't feel personally that it needs to be much more complicated than that. I mean, it's always good to energy train and clear yourself, contractually and cords and things like that. But I don't feel like, I feel like once you're aware, it's like anything, once McDonald's is poison, you're not going to eat it anymore. So, it's not going to affect you, right? Same thing with this. Once you're aware of it, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so it's just sort of encouraging people to, you've got a card that you need to steer. And actually, interestingly, in the NDEs, what I find interesting is some people, there's a few of them where they're not quite sure about these entities. There's something that they're not like fully aware of the soul trap, but they'll be like, this entity's telling me to go back and I'm not really sure. And so then they pull out the stops with these hooded beings. Oh yeah, that was the point I was going to make. Even if you're unsure, the matrix will step in, it seems. So people that have been in that like unsure, like where am I, what am I doing, where should I go now? It's almost like then the matrix comes in, even though initially they didn't go to the light necessarily, but they were still not really sure where to drive their car. And so that's when the matrix came in, and they'll see a scene of the big Greek building, and the cloak beings will suddenly be there, and they'll sit on the bench and say, look, you've got a mission down on Earth, or, your daughter needs you, you can't go now. And then they end up coming back round again eventually. But it's almost like, unless you're 100% bulletproof sure that you're leaving, you can be open to being manipulated. And I think that's all we need to do. I think we just need to, ponder on it every day. I don't particularly like meditation per se, because a lot of it's going out there, but just sitting there quietly, I'm leaving. When I'm gone, I'm leaving. I'm just having a clear plan of what you're going to do when that time comes. And I do believe it's as simple as that, because that's how that dimension works. Where your intention goes, it goes there instantly, right? There's no kind of like middle ground with it. And that attention is our car. Intention is our car. And so we just need to set that intention. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Unless, of course, you want to stay, right? And you want to come back.
Y'all can have it. What about... Okay, what do you think is outside of this? What do you think is outside of the matrix? And then follow-up question, do you think that there is a way to exit it here without dying? Like that there is, like you said, a portal or something like that?
So the way I see this matrix is like a computer game. It's a computer game of many other computer games that we could experience, right? And there's different dimensions to the game. I always describe that if this computer game was to have a name, it would be Sims gangster version, right? So we've been caught up in like a gangster version of Sims,
like the GTA
right?
Sims, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is the hardcore hellhole, computer game, right? But at the same time, I believe there's many other, who knows how many different computer games that we can experience, right? And maybe some will be dragons and that kind of fantasy, and maybe there's other good versus evil games going on. Maybe there's other games where you're just literally, it is love and light and you're just bliss. And for me, I've always wondered about myself that I have a real affinity with the ocean and the animals in the ocean. I don't know what it is. I'm a keen diver, and I just find that so fast. The animals, the dolphins, the sharks, the whales. I just feel such a strong connection with them that I feel like there's something there in my background, that maybe there's some kind of aquatic like world that maybe I was once part of. I'm not saying it for sure, but I do wonder where that comes from. So my point being is that there's all these other matrices out there, and I guess we can choose to experience anyone that we want, right? It's just with this one, and I don't even like the word trapped, right? Because it implies that you're here forever, right? I prefer something along the lines of temporary.
Like you're a hostage.
Temporary stuck, yeah, hostage, yeah. So we're hostages here, and that's the problem with this one. We've just remained here probably way too longer than we should have, and so like any game, I guess it's trying to get out and complete the game, and I think this is where we're at. Where I feel like we're at that. If you look at the snakes and ladders analogy, we're like 2 runs from the top, you know, with a ladder in the distance that's going to take us all the way. And that last part is just understanding the soul trap, and then we're out. I might be wrong, but I feel like this is the information that's gonna get us there. And but yeah, I would never, you know, say you must do this, because God forbid if I was wrong. So that's only,
They come find you in the next one.
Yeah. So it's all about discernment, and this is what I was saying: feeling into a person, feeling into their energy, feeling into the information. Does it feel good or does it feel true? And there's a big difference. You know, the love and light stuff will make you feel good, but does it feel true? And that's what we've got to wise up to. And you know, I see it a lot now, you know, with, you know, the alternative media. The next puppet comes along and they're all going goo-goo. You know, this Robert Kennedy guy is like, oh, for God's sake, have we not learned our lessons yet? We're still thinking that, you know, and then on the other side, he's talking about climate change and how, you know, we should be standing up for Israel and all this stuff. And people are like, yeah, freedom. And I'm like, no, you've not got it. You've not got it. Not saying that I know everything and, you know, I'm the bastion of the truth, but for God's sake, if we're this far down the line and people are still thinking that that's the way out, then this is why I say there's layers to all of this. And you can be stuck in one layer thinking that you know everything. And, you know, even with this, I'm open to, what I like what you said is like, you're open with your show that you might have some things wrong. You might have things, so I'm always open to it, but I do feel that it's kind of on point. I really feel that deep down in my soul that what I'm saying is on point.
I am, what you're saying is resonating with me more and more honestly than anything. But what's weird is that other shit resonated with me too. And so this is what's so interesting is when you start navigating these things by what feels right, true, and all of that, that changes, you know. And I've commented on that. Really, what I feel is occurring here with all of us, is that we're getting temporary truths. You're only in a truth for a time, and then it's not true anymore, and then something changes that, and you move on. There's an element of discernment and purity in there, perhaps, but really at its core, even some truths can come in and shatter everything that you built upon the temporary truths before, just like information like this. We've got
temporary truths or false truths.
How do you discern the difference?
By discerning, I think.
Yeah, but even that though, do you find that is double speak and perhaps a trap for some people?
No, I think discernment is the thing that we lack the most, even in alternative media. And I think, like anything, it's a muscle. You know, the more you use discernment, the stronger it gets. And the more you
discernment leads you to just not being able to trust anybody.
I don't feel like that. I feel like it will lead you to not trust a lot of people, not everybody. But also interference can affect our discernment. You know, entities and stuff like that. You know, the voices in the head. Oh, well, you know, you don't want to listen to what they're saying because, you know, it's not true, and it could be true, right? So
right.
They're always trying to cut in and you know, hijack anything that's going to put you on the right path. So we do have that to deal with as well, which is one of the reasons why discernment is pretty difficult. But yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing that we need to rediscover, because that's how they're getting away with what they're getting away with, both on the 3D level with all the problem and reaction solutions, the psyops and the smokes and mirrors. And this, why, I hate them, but they're very good at what they do.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
The way they do it is incredibly clever. I mean, if you look at someone like Robert Kennedy, and he's supposedly got Parkinson's, I don't even believe that, right? And he's like stuttering along, and they've built up all these backstory with his dad. His dad got shot and all this stuff, and the things that he says, and he comes across very warm. But then there's what I call the dump in the punch bowl, right? Where all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're supporting Israel and you're cheering for climate change, right? And the 15-minute cities, right? And as much as I hate that, I have to take my hat off, because it's bloody clever. And the same thing with these entities, who would ever look at something like Archangel Michael with his wings and his trumpet, and like, you just want to hug him, right? You just want to hug him. Oh, yeah. Thank fuck, Archangel Michael's finally here, right? But he's a squid. Essentially, he's a squid entity, right? So, but they masquerade, they shapeshift, they masquerade, they cloak themselves, and that's what they're doing all the time. They're doing it, and they're experts at it. And one day, when I'm hopefully long gone from here, I can sit back and maybe I'll tip my hat at some of the things that they've done, but I don't think that they're necessarily very wise, because I think they think that we're all stupid, and I think they've been so out there with their mockery that it's woken a lot of people up. Sometimes I think that they know that this is coming down, and they're just trying to create as much chaos as possible before they go, because when you start looking at things like glitches in the Matrix, which seem to be more and more common, I don't feel like everything's going their way. People don't want war anymore. I mean, we never really wanted it, but you see what's going on around the world. There's protests everywhere. People have had enough, and people are not, don't get me wrong, a lot of people are still complying, but I think there's more people now than ever that are not complying, and yeah, people have just been drove into the ground, and I think they've pushed it too far with things too quickly. And I'm actually feeling that, it's more like they're actually losing. But the New Age will tell you that they've won, right? That we've won, and that's a deception, because we haven't won yet, right? But I do feel like the tide is turning, and you look at things like the Mayan cultures, they kind of predicted this end of a cycle, and we're going into a different era where we're going to start understanding things more. And it does seem to be that there does seem to be truth in that. And I think the main thing to do is I think try and make the best of it while you're here. It's very easy. We've spoken about getting down and depressed and seeing what's going on and the struggles, but the worst thing that they hate is when you try and live your best life and do what you can. We've all got ways that we can contribute, and you're doing your show, I'm doing my thing, and other people will do their thing. So we want to try and contribute while we're here, but engage with hobbies, get creative. We're creative beings. Take up something new, take up a new hobby, get out in nature, do something every day that's going to make you feel good. And this information is there to help in the end. And it might be a bit of a punch in the guts to start with, but ultimately it brings it back to you and your own power and your own creativity. So don't let it all drag you down. Hopefully it's your last time here, is what I would say to people.
Fucking A. And I'm going to let you run on this, because I know you have a commitment. We have a time here, but a couple of things that I wanted to let folks know that are on my list that there aren't going to be found in this episode, but in a future one perhaps. But also they can find these on your YouTube, and as well your transcendingtimes.org, your website. All that's going to be linked below, guys. But chakra removal, we're not even going to talk about it. highly recommend you guys go check that video. And he's got a whole series on that kind of stuff down there. So definitely check that out. It's linked below. And just so many things, brother. So we're going to cap it here again because I know we're under time. But, man, I can't thank you enough, Tony. And there's just so many more things that I want to talk to you about. It's honestly, yeah, it's shitty. It's like waking up to that your governments are fucking everybody over, right? That first awakening. It's the same gut punch, man.
We didn't even get into God.
No, we didn't.
started
I
on
know.
God.
So there you go. So there's another one. Go check out his God, and then go check out some reviews of some videos of some other folks' work that he does. Very entertaining either way and quite informative. So Tony Sayers, I can't thank you enough, brother. And Alex Gibson, thank you again for recommending. We'll do it again, brother.
All right, great. Thanks for having me on.